Hey viewers, my name's Cara, and I am so excited this week to be telling you about the Saturn Returns course that I mentioned before in my video about Saturn Returns, which I'm sure will be linked everywhere at the end of the video and in the description and up in a little pop-up here, everything like that. You will be able to find it. I did a video about Saturn Returns earlier and talked about this course that I was developing and working on, and I'm so excited to say that not only now has it been outlined and all planned out, but I have finally figured out the easiest, basic way to set it up so that people can start signing up for it and subscribing to it and setting up the process. And that is linked on my blog. The link will be in the description. If you go to that page on my blog, it'll tell you a little bit of a description about it and how to join this journey. So in the video this week, I want to talk about a little bit about the course, a little bit more than what I say in the blog post, just to give you kind of a feel and sort of an idea of what to expect. And I also want to tell you some of the things that have already come up in my life that I consider part of coming into my Saturn return. So when you watch the video that I posted previously, I talk about what a Saturn return is and when it happens. So as you will know from that, or if you already have information yourself about this, Saturn takes 29.5 Earth years to orbit the Sun and return back to its place in your personal birth chart. I am not yet 29, so Saturn has not yet returned to its place in my birth chart. However, I did learn that it re-enters the sign of the zodiac, the astrological sign, that it was in when I was born this December. And that explained a lot for me because I have already been going through a lot of changes that can be associated with Saturn returns and that people associate with things that could be happening during your Saturn return. I've been going through a lot of those things already for a couple, if not a few years now. So that helped explain it for me. So when I realized this, I realized a little bit more of how these things can affect us and what the breadth of things is that we can experience during this time and how it really affects different people differently. It can be affecting you really early and it also continues to affect you later on. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice to work on these types of things together with other people who are going through these things? So that's kind of how I got the idea to develop this course. And so what I did for it was first I figured out, okay, I knew what it was going to be about. It was going to be about things that might be coming up during our Saturn return, just kind of basic things. And the idea was that I wanted to provide a toolbox for communicating about those types of things and some exercises to kind of check in with yourself and see where you are and therefore how these things might be affecting you or how they might begin to affect you as you move into that phase. And I am going through this personally, so other people around my age are going through this personally, and also people 30 years older than me and people 60 years older than me. Well, I'm rounding, but 29.5 years older than me and 29.5 years older than them are also going through this at the same time, but everyone else either has gone through it at least once or twice or will be going through it eventually. So this is something that can relate to everyone at some point. So after I knew kind of what I wanted to do, I thought about how much I could pack into a single course. And I looked into different ways that people schedule their courses, and what I determined was that I wanted to do something that would have enough time in between to give people some breathing room to go over each thing and, be kind of flexible. Sometimes you don't have the time, within a few days to do something. So I wanted to give it a little bit of breathing room, but I didn't want it to last too long. So I decided to do 8 lessons, 8 video lessons or sections of this course that will take place over 4 months. So a new lesson will come every other week. So that gives us 2 weeks to talk about and work on the things from each lesson. And in between there, we can be in communication and talking about how these things are related to each of you and to all of us as a group. So I wanted there to be that time for that. So I didn't go into depth with this in the blog post, and I don't want to give too much away because of course this is what you sign up for the course for and become part of it, but I did mention that you could expect some different types of things going on in the course. You could expect to be looking at things related to Saturn, so there will be some information about Saturn, of course, and how it affects us astrologically speaking and whatnot, and some basics of things that tend to come up when Saturn returns happen, the kinds of things that people tend to experience, and in working with that, there will be different exercises. They might be writing exercises. There are some things that'll be kind of like, I don't want to say art projects because people automatically think that means like drawing or painting or something like that, and that might be something that not everyone is comfortable with. So it's not really an art project, but things that involve a little more creativity and that involve getting out a physical piece of paper, and or I guess you could do it digitally too, one of the things that I have in mind. But anyway, different sorts of exercises that have visual representations of what's going on, in addition to the things that are just going to be kind of like words, but getting beyond words, talking about things, but then also doing things that is more than talking, but actually creating something, charting things, looking at things in a different way. And then in addition to those types of work, there will also be some tarot-related things. I'm getting more and more into the tarot, so we'll be looking at tarot in conjunction with Saturn Returns. There will also be some things that I come up with that might be little spells, little rituals, things like that will all be involved. So it will be a little bit witchy, some of the more witchy stuff, as it were, and then also the really delving into interpersonal work and meditations and journaling and all that kind of good stuff. But it's all based around things that might be coming up during your Saturn return. So I've mentioned this kind of stuff before. Actually, I will also link my universal shift video for you to watch. I'll put it in the description as well and probably on the end screen. So I made a video a while ago about some shifts that I was experiencing throughout the past few years and some major changes that I was going through, and that's the kind of stuff that goes on with Saturn Returns as well. And so while at the time I thought this is just having to do with tuning in and deciding to make changes in my life, and it may very well have been just that, but now realizing that it may also have to do with the fact that I'm coming into Saturn returning to where it was, and this is Saturn related kind of stuff, because what it does is it brings you back on track. If you have moved away from your path, your purpose, whatever it is, you kind of get bumped back into, on track. And how I described it on the blog was as though you get to work on your own. Say like, boss gave you something to do, you're working on your own, and eventually they're going to come back and check on you. And if you're still doing the task that you were given and you are on track, they're going to be like, cool, good job, and they might give you some pointers, or they might say, now that you're doing that, here's something else that you can add in or keep working on or whatever, and they're going to be like, awesome, good work, keep going. However, if boss comes back to check on you and you are way off track, they're going to stack you back in the line and say, hello, get back to the task that I have set out for you. So that's kind of what happens when Saturn returns. Some people refer to Saturn as the great taskmaster of the skies, and for that reason, another way that I've heard people describe it through different articles that I've been reading about it in preparation for, finding out some different things that people think about it, another way I've heard people describe it is as our planetary life coach, which is a little bit more, seems more helpful, seems more like Saturn is working with us rather than just telling us what to do. But it's really the same thing, depending on how you think of it. A life coach is there to help you stay on track with what you want to do for your life, and that's what Saturn does. So even though I've talked about it in my Universal Shifts video, I just want to recount a few of the things that have gone on for me. So really, when I decided a few years ago to start listening to the messages that the universe has given to me, and maybe in between the lessons in this course, maybe in between there, I'll do some more talking with the group that decides to sign up for this about this kind of thing, where I've talked about getting messages from the universe and how I did that and how I do that, how I continue to receive those messages, and a little bit more of ideas for how to tune into that kind of thing if that's something that you want to do, which I highly recommend. So when I started deciding this and I started really listening to the messages that I was receiving and accepting their guidance and making changes based on that guidance, regardless of how difficult it seemed, I was guided to do some very difficult things that I absolutely did not want to do. But in the end, I could see that it was for a good reason, but it was definitely very difficult. And for that reason, I consider these all Saturn-related things, and other people that I've read online, people that I've talked to, who have already been through one or more Saturn returns, this is the kind of thing that happens at this time in your life. You are forced to look at where you are and reevaluate. So for me, that had to do with looking at the romantic relationship that I was in and saying, where is this with alignment to where I want to be, who I am, what I want to be doing? Is this supporting that? Is it contesting it? Is it okay? Is it really not okay? Is it great? Is it just fine? And really honestly taking a look at that, and that had to do with taking a look at me and who I am and what I wanted and where I thought I was going. And then looking at who I was with at the time and saying, does this relationship support that? And if it does, then awesome, cool, good job, keep going, you know, keep working on this or add this in, like I said. And if not, looking at that and saying, okay, how can we adjust so that it does feel awesome and supportive and wonderful? Or is this something that needs to end or otherwise change drastically? And for me, it was a drastic change, and it was an ending, and it was very, very difficult. And it would not be something that I would have chosen to do for any other reason other than that it was along this alignment of really knowing what I was trying to do and seeing where I was being pushed and where my guidance was taking me, and really just having to trust that, which is super difficult, but once you make the decision to do it and you keep reminding yourself that you've made that decision, you know, when that is something that's important to you, it makes it really not easier, I won't say, but it makes it that much more important that you continue to allow yourself to be guided in that way. So after that, which was a really difficult thing, I was also guided to take a look at the job that I was in at the time, which I loved and I had been there for a long time, but really forced me to look at, again, who am I? How do I want to be treated? How do I want to treat others around me? Who do I want to surround myself with? And where do I want to be going in my life? What do I want to be doing? And that forced me to leave a position that I love with people that I loved, you know, and I made plenty of money and I had a good time and I had very supportive people around me, but it led me to realize that I really was not progressing at the same time. So both of those things, you know, the relationship thing and the job thing, they were both places where I was very comfortable, very safe, and content, but I wasn't progressing. And so that is the thing that really I had to take a look at. That's the kind of thing that this work entails, is really looking at where you are, who you are. So this is another thing I want to make a video on separately. I'll make a separate video, but a lot of people have been getting readings from me on my blog. There's a link to that as well. You'll see when you go to the blog, there's a tab that says readings. You can check that out and see what readings I offer, tarot and oracle. And so a lot of people have been getting the Endless Knot reading that comes in two versions, looking at who I am and who I want to become. And everyone who has done it so far has asked for the who I want to become option, which really says a lot to me, and I want to make a separate video about this because it tells me that we're not looking at who we are. Not a lot of people are currently looking at, who am I right now? Who are you? We are all like looking to the future, and that's definitely part of it. But I think that's based on having a full knowledge of who you are, and able to ask, you know, am I going where I want to be going based on who I am? It's not just about who do I want to become, what do I want to do, but really, who am I? And therefore, how does that inform the way that I live in my day-to-day life and the way that I make my decisions? So this is the kind of work that we will be doing through these exercises, through these rituals, spells, tarot, blah, 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 whatever, all of the different elements that we're going to use, that's the work that this entails. You know, right now, I've mentioned a lot, I'm going through a lot of doing work surrounding my beliefs around money and finances and purpose and drive and passion and what I want to be doing with my life. And I truly feel that all of these things are very connected to the work that happens and the things that are brought up by Saturn's return to our lives in our birth chart. So I consider all of those things related, and that is the kind of stuff that we will be talking about and getting into and working on in this course. And I will do it again in the future for sure, but this will be the first time I'm doing it, so it's kind of an introductory situation. I would take advantage of it now if it is something that you are interested in doing, and then I will use what I learned throughout this, because of course we will all be learning, to adjust in the future. So there might be different things going on in the future, or I might do this exact course again and then make a second tier for all of the people who go through it with me this time, that maybe next year we'll do something a little further, a step further, knowing that we all have this basis together. So before I go, I wanted to mention, I woke up today with this weird thought, and I've heard some people say before that the way that they know the universe is speaking to them, or that they're getting a message from their divinity or whatever, is that a thought comes into their head, or they hear a voice in their mind, or whatever it is, that is very different than what they would normally think, or that something that they don't agree with, and that's how they know that it's not a thought from within their own head, but that it's outside guidance. So I woke up today with this weird thought, or I actually had a related thought while I was creating the blog post describing my Saturn Returns course. I randomly got this thought, and it was just, you should get a tattoo of Saturn, which I thought is so odd, because the reason that I don't have any tattoos yet is because I hadn't found anything that I liked enough, and they're very specific things that I think about tattoos. I love them and I do want to get them, and I know what my first one will be, but that's a separate thing. But all of a sudden this thought came in, and I was like, you should get a tattoo of Saturn. And it was so flippant that I thought, that's not me. I wouldn't think that. Where did that come from? So that was, last few days ago when I posted the blog. Then this morning I woke up, random thought, all of a sudden, it was, you should get the tattoo on the finger where you used to wear your Saturn ring. And I'm like, what the? So I wake up with this voice in my head, and I'm like, okay, Saturn, now you're just getting weird with the tasks that you have for me. But what I did do is I went through my old jewelry box, and I pulled out the Saturn ring that I used to always wear. And I used to wear it on this pinky finger, on my little finger. So I did go and pull it out from the box where I had it, and it's pretty cool. I used to wear it all the time. It's kind of color changing. I don't know if you can see it, but it changes depending on the angle, that little globe on it. So I did go and put it on, and to just kind of connect with that energy a little bit more. I've had this ring since I was a little girl, and it only fits on my pinky. I could wear it as, as a midi ring on my middle finger, which in palmistry, the middle finger is associated with Saturn, and this mound here at the bottom of your finger is your mound of Saturn. So this is your Saturn area in palmistry. So I could wear it there, but I always wore it on this finger growing up, and I used to wear it all the time, and I haven't in years. And I just woke up with that thought, you should get a tattoo on that finger. And I'm not going to go run out and get the tattoo or anything, but it's just, it's that kind of, when you decide to pay attention to messages and when you decide to work with certain things, they really do have things to tell you. And it could come from nowhere, a random thought that isn't something that you would normally think. And so who knows, if I end up getting really into this work with Saturn specifically and helping guide people through Saturn Returns specifically or whatever, who knows, maybe I will. But for now, the ring is back. All of Saturn's rings are coming back, and I'm ready to do some work, so I hope you are too. If you are interested, please go check out the blog post, which describes how you can subscribe to the 4-month course, and you will receive a lesson, which will be in video form every 2 weeks. I'm going to try to form it around Saturdays, of course, Saturn's Day. And in between there will be other little things, topics to think about, maybe little meditations, quotes, just things to keep in mind, and extra things that we will be talking about in between those lessons. So it's really a lot of stuff involved, and I'm excited to get to work, and I'm excited to work with others on the work that I do. So I hope that's exciting for you too. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Until then, don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.